I need to show you something. Let this rectangle represent everyone who is watching this video right now from Nigeria. Let's say you all use mobile money. By mobile money, I mean you can store and transfer money using your phone without needing a traditional bank. So let's see how many of you use OPay. 66%. That's quite a large margin. But I'll tell you a secret. Everything started with this app. Allow me to take you on a nostalgic trip. It is the year 2012. Back when we used to use our Nokia phones, C2, Asha, and Co. Opera Mini was the perfect browser. Everyone used it. It was fast, it was cheap, saved a lot of data, and they even gave us free data every day. Okay, but why are we talking about Opera Mini? This video is meant to be about OPay. Well, newsflash, the owners of Opera Mini are the same people who own OPay. Both apps are from China. The person behind Opera Mini was Zhao Haiwu, Chinese billionaire. So this is how it began. Our Chinese billionaire wanted to expand into the African fintech industry because apparently Opera Mini was not enough success. So he decided to build a super app. The idea was simple: one platform for multiple services, an entire digital ecosystem in one app. As you may have guessed, this super app was called OPay. OPay officially launched in Nigeria in 2018, but it did not just start as just an ordinary transfer app. OPay was just the fintech core. They had O-Ride for bike hailing, basically Uber for Okada and Keke Napep. They had O-Food for food delivery. They had O-Car, O-Bus, O-Express. You get the point. The idea was that there was no way you would not need at least one of their services. They made their services so cheap. Transfers were free and without charges. And before you knew it, you were already hooked and deep into the OPay ecosystem. So what next? They started a very aggressive marketing campaign for OPay. They went all in with massive spending. And you know what happens when a good plan meets good money? Success. But you could not just come from nowhere and dominate the Nigerian banking sector with a mobile app. There was the big six: Access Bank, Zenith Bank, First Bank, UBA, GT Bank, and Fidelity Bank. These banks controlled majority of deposits and loans. They had the capital, the connections, the relationships, and the infrastructure. And to top it, these banks were very excellent in their services. I mean, fast transactions, efficient banking system, strong IT foundation. Yeah, that is a big lie. Nigerian banks were in a terrible state when OPay launched. In fact, Nigerian banks were possibly the reason why OPay succeeded so much.
Brilliant ball from Banniger. Is this the opener? Yes, it is!
The year is 2018. There is a breaking news from the Daily Post. It gathered that 60% of complaints from bank customers were about failed bank transactions. If you remember, bank network problems were chronic.
Every weekend, we do have network challenges, which is very bad, which is not supposed to.
ATM and POS terminals were always having dispensing errors.
If I go to withdraw money, the money will not pay me, but it will debit me. So I keep on complaining, but if you go to the bank, they will tell you that you should wait for 24 hours. But sometimes if you go, the money will... I have one experience that like that up till now, I lose the money.
Poor customer service and long queues in banking halls, hidden charges. Overall, we were already frustrated with Nigerian banks. So this was just a perfect state for someone to come and take over. And so they did. This is the sweetest part of this video. OPay understood something that Nigerian banks did not understand at the time. Let's go to China. In China, at the time, there was Alipay, China's mobile payment system, and it was already a massive success. There was already an evolution of mobile payments in China. This Zhao of a Chinese billionaire did not need to innovate. He just needed to replicate what was spectacularly working well in China. They were not experimenting. They were implementing a proven formula that they had witnessed in their land, China. OPay's strategy was deceptively simple. Focus on what customers actually needed, not what banks thought they should have. While traditional banks were building complex corporate banking suites, OPay was perfecting the art of instant transfer. Why you needed to go to a bank, carry multiple documents, and wait for days of processing just to open a bank account. OPay made this possible in minutes with just a phone number and KYC. While banks were building new branches to expand their reach, OPay was expanding their own reach through human beings, people, shops, kiosks, and small businesses, collectively called human agents. Now you no longer needed a physical bank to deposit, withdraw, pay bills, or open a bank account. Now I have to say, sure, we had mobile banking apps from our traditional banks, and maybe there was hardly any way Nigerian banks could compete in terms of technology. This was a Chinese company backed by a Chinese billionaire who was very experienced. I understand, you might want to argue that their technology would of course be more superior. But you have to understand that OPay's success was not just about technology. The app understood Nigerians' psyche around money. Nigerians are inherently entrepreneurial. Millions of us engage in small-scale trade and businesses. OPay features were designed around this reality: instant transfers, accessibility, and low transfer fees.
This is Maiduguri today. Residents are staying indoors and roads are almost deserted following the 14-day lockdown ordered by the state government.
The world was shut down. Churches, schools, markets, banks. We no longer visited banks physically. There was a transition. We were forced to prioritize digital alternatives for payments, transfers, and business in general. I know this was a good period for OPay because the company experienced dramatic growth in its agent network from 40,000 agents in 2019 to 300,000 agents by May 2020. From January 2020 to April 2020, they witnessed a 44% growth of offline and online transactional value in the midst of the pandemic and lockdown. A report claimed that OPay accounted for over 60% of mobile money transaction value and volume in Nigeria at that time. Now, it was around this period that OPay decided to double down on the fintech part, because during this period, other services that OPay offered, like the O car, the O ride, the O bus, they were all affected by the lockdown and restriction of movement. OPay was like, we are not going to offer these services anymore. We are going to focus almost entirely on financial services. Of course. As if that was not enough, few years later, towards the ending of 2022 and the start of 2023, Nigerians experienced one of the most difficult moments in this country: the initiation of the cashless policy by our beloved government. I can never forget. You remember how they designed new Naira currency note and they refused to print out enough of the new ones, and so there was scarcity of notes overall.
Where is this in the world? Which offense do we committed?
Like me now, since morning, the anger in me is too much. I've been working around. I don't even get even 1 naira now to transfer go back home. I don't get.
There was severe scarcity of cash. Remember how ATMs were always empty and banks were always struggling to dispense enough cash.
Very annoying because of there is no more cash. I have the money, but I can only collect just 20,000 naira in my account.
Remember how there was an explosion of POS agents? Remember how POS agents were considered the richest people in the country, and how we used to accuse them of being very wicked? Yes, I remember vividly. You see, the thing with that period was that because of how scarce cash was, people had to learn how to use apps, transfers, and POS terminals to conduct daily transactions.
Me personally, I can't really remember when I went to the ATM to use the ATM machine. Most time, when customer came, they'll ask you, are you using POS? I say yes, because there's POS around everywhere. I prefer using POS than using ATM.
Now, for sure, we had our bank apps, but we quickly realized that they were not ready to handle the pressure coming from a cashless economy. They were just not cutting it. This period exposed our banking system and made us realize how inadequate and subpar they were for such a population of financial service consumers. They were not prepared. But guess who was? OPay and PalmPay. You see, OPay was not the only one experiencing massive growth. PalmPay was always by the side. PalmPay was always a formidable competitor and offered very identical services to OPay with very similar approach and strategy. And guess who owns PalmPay? China. Again. PalmPay is co-owned by two Chinese companies. One of them is Transsion Holdings, the same company that owns Tecno, Infinix, and Itel. One day we'll talk about how much of our economy is powered and run by China. Anyways, back to the story. After the cashless policy, after that whole period, it affected our behavior. The policy affected our long-standing cash-dependent habits. Once we experienced the convenience that came with these digital payment platforms and systems, especially in such a time of crisis where cash was unavailable, many of us never fully reverted back to cash. This experience pushed a lot of small and medium businesses to embrace digital payments, accepting transfers and POS payments. This new consumer behavior directly benefited OPay. The company kept growing in valuation, and by 2024, OPay's valuation nears $3 billion. That's about 4.5 trillion naira. To put this into context, in the same year, OPay was worth 4 times more than Zenith Bank, whose valuation at 2024 was 987 billion naira. OPay is worth more than any single Nigerian bank by a large margin. This is just an app that is 6 years old. A Chinese app. Now, today our banks have been working to get better. Surely, truthfully, there have been good improvements. They are making a significant push into this new digital market, launching their own initiatives, partnering with fintech companies, and pouring resources into app development. But the truth is that they are playing catch-up in the games where the rules have already been written beforehand. I'm not saying OPay is perfect. It certainly has its dark side, some of which was covered beautifully by Jude Bella. This is not just a story. It's a story of how dangerous complacency is. Unfortunately, a lot of what goes on in Nigeria is built on complacency, run on complacency, maintained on complacency. Whatever business you do, whatever company you start, always try to innovate. Be ready to throw away old systems and prioritize your customers' experiences and needs. As always, till we meet again.